The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it. Marcus Aurelius wrote those words nearly 2,000 years ago, yet their truth echoes through the ages. This is the story of how a philosophy born under a simple painted porch in Athens visually transformed across empires while its core remained unshaken. We will trace the journey of Stoicism as it moved from Greek colonnades to Roman villas, through medieval manuscripts and Renaissance art, into our modern digital world. By the end, you will see the timeless blueprint for resilience that has guided minds from emperors to everyday people. How did a school of thought founded in a public walkway manage to outlast civilizations themselves? What single visual practice has remained constant through all these transformations? When you think of strength in the face of chaos, what image first comes to your mind? Athens, in the early 3rd century before the Common Era, was a city alive with argument and ideas. In the bustling Agora, the city's central marketplace and civic heart, one could find every kind of person and pursuit. Merchants hawked their goods, politicians debated in corners, and above all, philosophers gathered their students. It was here, not in a secluded garden or a private hall, but under the long, covered colonnade known as the Stoa poikile, or the painted porch, that a shipwrecked merchant from Cyprus named Zeno of Citium began to teach. His classroom had no walls, only columns open to the life of the city. This was a deliberate choice, a visual and philosophical statement. The Stoa was public, accessible, and free. Anyone, from a wealthy citizen to a common shoemaker, could stop, listen, and engage. The very architecture reflected the core tenets of this new school of thought. It was a covered space offering shelter for reasoned discussion, but it remained open to the world, insisting that philosophy was not an escape from life, but a tool to navigate it more rationally. Zeno and his successor, Cleans, taught that to live well was to live in accordance with nature, to understand the universal reason that governs the cosmos, and to find our place within it. This was a stark contrast to Plato's Academy, a private property surrounded by gardens, or Aristotle's Lyceum, a more enclosed sanctuary for learning. Those schools were, in a sense, set apart from the common world. The Stoa was of the world, the noise, the distractions, the unpredictable flow of human activity. These were not interruptions to the philosophical life. They were the very material upon which it was built. How different is this from the places we seek wisdom today? Do we retreat into quiet, curated spaces, or do we, like the early Stoics, choose to practice our philosophy amidst the beautiful, chaotic noise of everyday life? Seneca's words on virtue could be heard not in a public colonnade, but within the secluded luxury of a Roman villa's garden. This was Stoicism's first great visual transformation. The philosophy traveled from the open agora of Athens to the heart of a vast empire, and in doing so, its physical surroundings changed completely. In Rome, the school's image shifted from a communal walkway to private porticos, ornate busts, and the inner courts of imperial power. The core ideas of reason and resilience remained, but they were now framed by marble and authority. This Roman adoption reframed Stoicism for a society obsessed with order, duty, and public image. It was no longer just a philosophy for the everyman in the street. It became a vital tool for the senator in the forum and the emperor on his throne. The Romans took the Greek concept of living in accordance with nature and translated it into living in accordance with one's role in a vast, structured society. They built their own stoas, of course, grand porticos in their forums, but the most significant philosophical work now happened behind closed doors in the studies of the elite. Consider the visual evidence we have from that time. Busts of Stoic philosophers like Seneca became common fixtures in the homes of wealthy Romans. These were not just decorations, they were daily reminders. A senator could look upon the stern, bearded face of a thinker and be called back to his duty. An emperor could have a statue of Zeno in his palace, a symbol of the reason that should guide his power. The philosophy was literally brought into the household, made personal and private. Seneca himself wrote that a wise man, though a slave in chains, is still free, while a fool, though an emperor, is still a slave. This highlights the Roman Stoic focus on inner virtue, a kingdom of the mind that no external circumstance could touch. How does a philosophy change its appearance when it crosses into a new culture? Does its essence survive the journey from a painted porch to a gilded palace, from public discourse to private contemplation? The Romans proved that it could by taking the sturdy framework from Athens and building a villa of thought around it, a structure that would one day house an emperor. That worn cloak, the long beard, the simple staff, these were the unmistakable marks of a Stoic philosopher in the ancient world. This was not a fashion choice born of poverty, but a uniform of wisdom, a deliberate visual statement against the excess of the age. While Roman elites draped themselves in fine, dyed wool and silk, the Stoic chose the tribon, a coarse, undyed cloak that was often threadbare. This was their most public symbol, a walking lesson in indifference to external status. It was a constant, tangible reminder to the wearer and to all who saw them that a person's worth lies in their character, not in their clothing. The philosopher Musonius Rufus taught extensively on this very point. He argued that the purpose of clothing is merely to protect us from the cold and to cover our bodies, not to impress our neighbors. He saw luxury in dress as a disease of the soul, a distraction that weakens our resolve and ties our happiness to fleeting, external things. To choose the simple cloak was to practice freedom, a daily declaration that you are not owned by your possessions. This visual identity resonates powerfully even now. Think of the modern executive who wears the same style of suit every day to eliminate trivial decisions, or the tech innovator in a uniform of a simple black turtleneck, consciously minimizing fashion to maximize focus on their work. These are contemporary echoes of the Stoic cloak, a deliberate simplification of the external to empower the internal. So we might ask ourselves, as a small practice in detachment, what one item in our own closet or home could we simplify? What single possession, if made plainer, might quietly remind us that our true value was never woven into its fabric? A lone scribe bends over a parchment in a quiet scriptorium, his quill scratching softly as he carefully copies the words of Epictetus. The public porches of Athens and the marble villas of Rome are gone, replaced by the hushed halls of monasteries. This is how Stoicism survived its next great transformation, not through grand public statues, but through the quiet, relentless work of preservation. In the fading light of late antiquity, as empires fractured, the visual story of Stoicism shifted from architecture and sculpture to the intimate world of manuscripts and mosaics. The philosophy was now safeguarded by scribes who might never fully embrace its pagan origins, yet recognized its profound moral wisdom. They copied texts like the discourses of Epictetus and the meditations of Marcus Aurelius, ensuring these works would endure for centuries. The visual representation was no longer a philosopher in a cloak, but the beautifully illuminated letters on a page, a literal and metaphorical container for timeless ideas. In one of those carefully preserved passages, Epictetus offers a principle that would become the bedrock of the philosophy. He writes, "Some things are within our power, while others are not." Within our power are opinion, motivation, desire, aversion, and, in a word, whatever is of our own doing. This was the core of the Stoic art of living, visually encoded in ink and parchment, waiting to be rediscovered. This wisdom did not just exist in books, it began to subtly infuse the art of the new Christian world. Look at the majestic mosaics that adorned Byzantine churches, depicting figures personifying courage, justice, and wisdom. These are not Stoic philosophers, yet they are visual allegories for the very virtues the Stoics championed. A mosaic of a soldier standing firm against a foe is not just a religious image, it is a depiction of the Stoic virtue of courage, the ability to endure hardship with resolve. The philosophy had shed its specific identity and merged with the broader visual language of virtue, its teachings preserved like a seed within the shell of a new culture. So we must ask ourselves in our own time, what are the manuscripts we are creating? What books do we return to? What notes do we write to ourselves? What digital spaces do we curate to preserve the principles we wish to live by? We are all scribes in the scriptorium of our own minds, and the texts we choose to copy today will define the wisdom available to us tomorrow. Raphael's great fresco, The School of Athens, gathers the intellectual giants of antiquity under one magnificent architectural vault. Among the animated crowd of Plato and Aristotle, if you look closely, you can find the solitary figure of Zeno of Citium, the founder of Stoicism. He stands apart, often identified by his scroll, a quiet presence in the midst of the philosophical debate. This was the visual rebirth of Stoicism, a philosophy not just copied in manuscripts anymore, but celebrated in full color on the walls of the Vatican itself. The Renaissance was not merely an artistic movement, it was a reawakening of classical thought, and Stoic sages were painted and sculpted anew as the ultimate models of human reason and moral strength. Artists and humanist thinkers looked back across 1,000 years and saw in these ancient figures a mirror for their own aspirations. They depicted Stoic philosophers not as austere ascetics, but as noble, dignified men, their faces etched with the wisdom of a life lived in accordance with nature. This was Stoicism translated into the visual language of humanism, where the ideal human was both virtuous and rational, a citizen of a world rediscovering its own potential. Seneca's writings found a particularly eager audience among these thinkers. He had written, "Life is long if you know how to use it." This single idea, that a meaningful life is not about its length but its depth of purpose, resonated powerfully in an age of both immense creativity and sudden, swift plagues. It was a call to action, a reminder that wisdom was the true aim of a life well lived. This revival was not confined to grand frescoes. With the recent invention of the printing press, Stoic philosophy escaped the scriptorium and entered the libraries of merchants, scholars, and statesmen. These new printed books often featured elaborate frontispieces, intricate engravings that visually framed the philosophy within them. A reader would see an illustrated portrait of Marcus Aurelius, crowned and armored, yet holding a scroll, a powerful visual metaphor for the union of power and philosophy. These images made the Stoics accessible and tangible, turning them from abstract names into visual companions for the modern reader. So we can look at this Renaissance moment and ask ourselves a simple question. What ancient wisdom are we personally rediscovering in our own lives right now? What forgotten book on our shelf, or what quiet principle we once knew, is waiting for its own renaissance, waiting to be brought back into the light and painted onto the walls of our daily actions? Justus Lipsius stares out from his engraved portrait, a man of letters surrounded by the tools of his trade, his expression one of unshakable calm. This Flemish scholar did more than just read the ancient Stoics. He rebuilt their philosophy for a Europe tearing itself apart in the 16th and 17th centuries. His book, De Constantia, became the visual and intellectual handbook for a movement we now call Neostoicism. Its famous title page was not just text, it was an emblem, an intricate visual puzzle combining image and motto to convey a deep truth. In an age of brutal religious wars and political chaos, Lipsius argued that the only safe fortress was the human mind itself. He revived the ancient concept of constantia, or constancy, defining it as the unwavering strength of a mind rightly judged, a rock against which the waves of fortune shatter. This was not a passive acceptance of suffering, but an active, disciplined fortitude. It was a philosophy made for people who had to navigate a world that felt like it was ending, a visual and mental framework for building inner order when outer order had collapsed. You can see this philosophy etched into the very landscape of the era. Look at the geometric gardens of royal palaces, their perfect hedges and straight paths imposing rational control over wild nature. Or consider the star-shaped forts with their low, thick walls designed to absorb cannon fire, a stark visual metaphor for resilience. These structures were not just military innovations or aesthetic choices. They were the architecture of constancy, physical manifestations of the Neo-Stoic ideal, a belief that through reason and discipline, both a city and a soul could withstand any siege. Lipsius wrote that the person who is truly constant acknowledges necessity and obeys it. He meant that we must discern what is within our power and what is not, then build our defenses accordingly. His work gave people a way to visualize their own inner strength, to see themselves as those star-shaped forts, designed not to avoid hardship, but to withstand it through intelligent design. So as you move through our modern world, ask yourself what structures or designs embody a sense of resilience and calm for you. Is it the clean lines of a minimalist room, the predictable loop of a walking path, or the reliable architecture of a daily routine? We are still building our own fortresses of the mind, seeking that same visual and psychological order in a turbulent world. An 18th-century gentleman sits for his portrait, his hand resting on a leather-bound copy of Marcus Aurelius. This was the Enlightenment's visual code, a subtle declaration that the subject's authority came not from birthright alone, but from a cultivated inner governance. In this age of reason, the ideals of Stoicism found a new canvas, shifting from the scholar's study to the public square, where art itself became a tool for promoting the rational, virtuous citizen. The visual language of the era embraced simplicity, order, and clarity, mirroring the Stoic pursuit of a life free from chaotic passions. Grand portraits no longer focused solely on opulent fabrics and symbols of wealth. They now included attributes of wisdom, a scroll, a classical bust, or that telling book, signaling that true nobility was a matter of character. Jacques-Louis David's paintings are perhaps the ultimate expression of this fusion. In his Oath of the Horatii, stern, muscular figures commit to a duty that will demand sacrifice, their bodies and faces composed with geometric precision. This is not a celebration of emotion, but a powerful visual hymn to Stoic resolve, to putting the good of the state above personal feeling. The Enlightenment sought to build a society on the foundation of reason, and it found in Stoicism a ready-made blueprint for the individual citizen. Marcus Aurelius had written that what brings no benefit to the hive brings none to the bee. This idea of serving the common good, of understanding one's role within a larger, rational order, became a central tenet of the enlightened mind. The art of the period was a constant public reminder of this duty. How do you visually represent your own values to the world today? It may not be through a formal portrait, but perhaps through the orderly design of your workspace, the calm demeanor you strive to maintain under pressure, or the simple, reliable principles you choose to stand for in your community. We are all composing our own public portrait with the choices we make each day. What visual shorthand did different cultures use to represent Stoic ideas? Long before words could be mass-printed, these symbols acted as silent teachers, instantly communicating the philosophy's core tenets. The lamp of reason was one of the most enduring. It depicted a single flame, often held by a hand emerging from a cloud, illuminating a book or the world. This was the light of logic and wisdom, a reminder to see the world clearly, free from the distorting shadows of unchecked emotion. Then there was the anchor, a symbol of stability and safety. In a stormy sea of chaos and change, the Stoic soul was to be an anchor, holding fast to virtue, unmoved by the crashing waves of fortune. Epictetus offered a powerful parallel to this when he described the ideal philosopher as a sturdy rock against which the waves of circumstance continually break. "It stands firm," he wrote, "and the waters around it grow calm." This was the promise of constancy, a soul so grounded in its principles that external events could not capsize it. We see these emblems everywhere in the historical record. They were carved into Renaissance medallions, woven into the borders of illuminated manuscripts, and etched onto the wax seals of important letters. A noble family's coat of arms might feature an oak tree, another potent Stoic symbol representing inner strength and deep roots in virtue, able to withstand the fiercest winds. These were not mere decorations, they were public declarations of a private philosophy, a visual code for a way of life. So we must ask, what symbol would you choose for yourself? What single image, whether a simple object from nature or a man-made tool, best captures your own anchor in a storm or the lamp that guides your way? Identifying this personal emblem can be a small, yet profound, step in making your philosophy visible, a constant, silent reminder of the resilience you are building within. A weathered stone statue of a Roman Stoic and a serene wooden carving of a Buddhist arhat might stand continents apart, yet they share a profound and silent language. Both figures are depicted seated, their postures upright but relaxed, hands resting calmly, faces etched not with emotion but with a deep, unwavering composure. This is the universal portrait of the sage, a visual ideal that emerged independently across civilizations, each discovering that the highest human state involves a harmonious alignment with a greater natural order. Marcus Aurelius wrote that we must accept everything which happens, even if it seems disagreeable, because it leads to the health of the universe. This effortless acceptance of the cosmic flow finds a clear echo in the Taoist principle of Wu Wei, or effortless action, and in the Buddhist teaching of non-attachment to the ever-changing world. The visual goal was the same, to embody a tranquility so complete that it becomes a fortress for the soul. In the East, this philosophy was not just carved in stone, it was cultivated in earth and rock. The meticulously raked gravel of a Japanese Zen garden is a breathtaking visual practice for achieving a Stoic mind. Every ripple in the sand represents a passing thought or event, while the immovable stones symbolize the enduring, observant self. The act of raking itself is a discipline of focus, a meditation that clears the mental landscape of chaotic passions, leaving behind a pattern of serene order. It is a living exercise in distinguishing what is within our control, the careful arrangement of one's own attention from what is not, the endless stream of external happenings. Similarly, ancient Chinese scroll paintings often depict a single, tiny scholar contemplating a vast, majestic mountain range. This is not a scene of insignificance, but a powerful visual lesson in perspective. The mountain has endured for eons, unmoved by storms or seasons, and the sage seeks to internalize that same unshakable constancy. His smallness in the landscape is a reminder that our personal troubles are but a fleeting part of a much grander, timeless whole. So we can look at these traditions and ask ourselves which visual practices from other cultures instinctively draw you in. Is it the orderly silence of a Zen garden, the expansive emptiness of a desert, or the disciplined form of a tea ceremony? These are all external representations of an internal state, and identifying the one that resonates with you can be the first step in building your own personal sanctuary of calm. A crisp, uncluttered book cover holds a single, bold word against a stark background: Stoicism. This is the modern face of an ancient practice, a visual evolution from parchment and porticos to the clean lines of digital interfaces. The philosophy has found its newest home on our screens, translated into the minimalist design of apps, the structured layouts of dedicated websites, and the shareable graphics that populate social media feeds. This contemporary visual language is not merely a trend. It is a deliberate reflection of the philosophy's core promise: clarity, accessibility, and practical utility in a noisy world. The muted color palettes of sage green, deep blue, and charcoal gray are chosen to evoke calm and rationality, while the clean, sans serif fonts communicate directness and order, stripping away the ornamental to focus on the essential. A modern Stoic author, Ryan Holiday, frames this revival by noting that Stoicism was always a philosophy for the street, for people with real lives and real problems. Its current digital form is simply the newest porch, the latest public square, where anyone with a smartphone can access the same tools for resilience that were once debated in the Athenian Agora. Look at the website for the Daily Stoic, for instance. Its design is intuitive and free of visual clutter, mirroring the mental decluttering the philosophy advocates. Or consider the Stoic app Wiser, which uses a simple, friendly penguin avatar to guide users through cognitive behavioral techniques rooted in Stoic principles, making mental fitness as approachable as a fitness tracker. Every streamlined logo and thoughtfully composed Instagram post is a visual argument for a more examined life, so we must pause and consider the digital environments we inhabit each day. How does the design of the apps on your home screen, the tone of the newsletters you subscribe to, and the imagery in your social feed subtly influence your own outlook and inner peace? We are all curators of our own digital Stoa, building it one conscious click at a time. From your window, look down upon the bustling streets of your city, then let your mind's eye pull back further, seeing the entire town as a map, then the continent, until the whole earth hangs in the void like a blue and white marble. This is the view from above, a mental visualization that Marcus Aurelius practiced nearly 2,000 years ago. He would remind himself to frequently observe the village of your childhood, the palace you may one day visit, the famous places you hear of, the courts of kings, all the way out to the stars themselves. He was not stargazing for escape. He was performing a deliberate exercise to shrink his anxieties to their true size. This single practice is the great constant in Stoicism's visual evolution, a portable sanctuary that requires no painted porch, no marble bust, and no printed book. It is architecture for the mind, built from perspective alone. The goal is to see your life, with all its dramas and desires, as a tiny, fleeting part of an immense and ancient cosmos. Marcus wrote that from this high vantage, you can see the sheer quantity of people and their countless strivings, and how brief even the longest life appears against the backdrop of infinity. This realization does not belittle your existence, it liberates it, draining the urgency from minor irritations and the sting from perceived insults. How powerful is a worry about a traffic jam or a harsh email when viewed from the orbit of Jupiter? We are fortunate to live in an age where this ancient visualization is aided by modern eyes. You can open an app on your phone and watch a live feed from the International Space Station, seeing our planet as a continuous, silent sunrise. You can use planetarium software to zoom out from your neighborhood to the edge of the observable universe, a journey that visually enacts the Stoic lesson in scale. These tools do not replace the mental discipline, they enhance it, providing a concrete image for the abstract practice of gaining perspective. So, as you listen now, bring to mind one current concern that feels heavy and immediate. Then, in your mind, perform the view from above. Watch as your home shrinks to a dot, your city to a smudge of light, your country to a shape on a globe spinning in the vast dark. Hold that image for just a moment. Does the problem feel lighter, its edges less sharp, when framed by the silent, star-dusted expanse of everything? A cluttered room, overflowing with forgotten objects and visual noise, feels like a mind besieged by chaotic thoughts. Now picture a minimalist space where clean lines and open floor plans create a sanctuary of calm. This is not merely an aesthetic preference, it is an architectural echo of the Stoa itself, a modern translation of that ancient commitment to function over ornament. The minimalist movement in design and architecture draws a direct line back to the Stoic value of eliminating the unnecessary, creating environments that visually enforce a clear and rational mind. These spaces, with their emphasis on natural light, unadorned surfaces, and purposeful objects, become a physical Stoa for our time, a shelter for contemplation built from glass, steel, and wood. Seneca saw the danger of excess with startling clarity, writing, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." He understood that every superfluous possession is not just a physical object, but a hook for our attention, a demand on our time, and a source of potential anxiety. A home crammed with belongings creates a constant, low hum of distraction, pulling our focus outward. A minimalist space, by contrast, turns our attention inward, giving our thoughts the room to breathe and settle. Look at the clean geometry of a modernist home, its large windows framing a view of the sky, its floors clear of obstructions. Every element serves a function, and every function supports a state of being, tranquility. Or consider a public library designed with this philosophy, where the absence of visual clutter allows the mind to focus entirely on the world of ideas contained in the books. These structures are not empty, they are curated, each chosen object carrying weight and purpose, mirroring the Stoic practice of carefully selecting which impressions and judgments we allow into our minds. So, as a small but profound Stoic exercise, look around your own living space. Identify just one area, a single drawer, a shelf, or a corner that has become a repository for the inessential. What would it feel like to clear it out, to create a small pocket of order and intention? This act of physical decluttering is never just about the objects. It is a tangible practice in distinguishing what serves your life from what merely burdens it. The quiet strength of a character like Ned Stark from Game of Thrones is not just a personality trait, it is a visual language. Filmmakers and showrunners use specific visual cues to signal a Stoic character to the audience, often portraying them as islands of calm in a storm of chaos. We see it in their calm, focused expression, a face that registers events without being overthrown by them. We hear it in their measured, deliberate speech, even when delivering devastating news. Their body language is composed, their movements economical and purposeful, a visual representation of a mind that conserves its energy for what truly matters. These characters become our modern sages, their resilience painted not on canvas but on the silver screen. This portrayal connects directly to the wisdom of Epictetus, who taught that people are disturbed not by things but by the views which they take of them. A Stoic character on screen embodies this principle, visually demonstrating that their power lies in their judgment and response, not in the external event itself. Consider a pivotal scene where Ned Stark, imprisoned and facing a false confession, is offered a chance to save his family by renouncing his honor. The camera holds on his face, which is not blank but deeply thoughtful. He is weighing the ultimate externals, his life and his family's safety, against the one thing truly within his power, his integrity. His final choice, to maintain his virtue even at the cost of his head, is a brutal yet powerful lesson in Stoic ethics. It is a scene that asks us what we would cling to if everything else was stripped away. Which fictional character in your own viewing history stands out as a model of this Stoic composure? Is it the quiet resolve of a leader, the principled stand of a mentor, or the silent endurance of an underdog? Identifying this figure can make the philosophy feel less like an ancient text and more like a living, breathing possibility. Close your eyes for just a moment and picture your phone shattering on the pavement. Feel that instant jolt of frustration, the surge of annoyance at the cost and the inconvenience. Now let that feeling pass and open your eyes. You have just practiced one of the most powerful visual tools in the Stoic tradition, negative visualization, or premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. This is not about cultivating fear, but about conducting a mental rehearsal for life's inevitable stumbles. It is a deliberate visual evolution that happens entirely within the mind's eye, a training to see potential hardship clearly so it loses its power to shock us. The Stoics understood that our anxiety often stems from the unexpected, from the sudden rupture of our comfortable plans. By mentally walking through these scenarios beforehand, we build a kind of emotional muscle memory for resilience. Seneca put this into stark practice in his letters to his friend Lucilius. He wrote that we should remind ourselves that we will die, that those we love will die, or that we might lose our social standing or wealth. He was not being morbid, he was being pragmatic. He advised Lucilius to practice poverty so that you may never be poor in spirit. Set aside a certain number of days, he suggested, during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare with coarse clothing. This was a visual and sensory exercise in detachment, a way to see oneself not as a person who has lost everything, but as a person who never needed it to be whole in the first place. Let's try a modern application. You have a crucial job interview tomorrow. Instead of just visualizing success, take a minute to vividly imagine it going poorly. Picture yourself stumbling over your words, failing to answer a key question, and receiving a polite rejection email a week later. Sit with that feeling of disappointment. Now ask yourself, what would you do next? You would update your resume, you would apply for more jobs, you would learn from the experience. The world would not end. By visualizing the worst-case scenario and realizing you have a path through it, you drain the situation of its terrifying uncertainty. You walk into that interview not with a fragile hope, but with a grounded confidence prepared for any outcome. So, as you move through your day, take a single, quiet moment to consider one thing you are deeply grateful for that you normally take for granted. It could be the steady electricity powering your home, the health of a loved one, or simply the ability to see the sky. Now, briefly, gently picture your life without it. Notice how that simple act of mental contrast does not create sadness, but instantly deepens your appreciation, anchoring you firmly in the present gift of your own life. That handwritten page is a map of a mind at work, tracing a private dialogue between a person and their highest self. This is the Stoic journal, perhaps the most personal visual artifact in the entire tradition, a tool for self-examination that has evolved from the private parchment of an emperor to the digital notes app on your phone. Marcus Aurelius never intended his meditations for public eyes. He was writing reminders to himself, creating a visual and textual record of his own philosophical progress. On those pages, we see the raw material of a life lived with intention, where thoughts are organized, failures are admitted, and principles are reaffirmed in ink. The very act of writing is a Stoic practice in itself. It forces a moment of pause, pulling chaotic impressions from the whirlwind of the mind and giving them a fixed form on a page where they can be examined with reason and clarity. Marcus captured the spirit of this practice when he wrote, "Do not be disgusted, do not be discouraged, do not be dissatisfied, if you do not succeed in doing everything according to right principles. But when you have failed, return again, and be content if the greater part of what you do is consistent with human nature." His journal was the place for that return, the quiet space to realign his actions with his virtues. You do not need a leather-bound volume to begin this practice. The visual evolution continues in the clean, efficient grids of a modern bullet journal, where tasks and reflections coexist in an organized system. It appears in the simple, one-line daily entry in a digital journaling app, a quick visual check-in with your own state of mind. The structure can vary to serve different Stoic ends. An evening reflection where you review the day's events and your responses to them asks, where did I go against my nature today? What could I have done better? A morning planning session sets your intentions, asking, what potential obstacles might I face and what virtues will I need to navigate them? Both styles create a visual rhythm of preparation and review, a daily architecture for a resilient life. So, as a small start to this ancient practice, take a mental note, or even a physical one, of a single sentence that captures your intention for this very day. It need not be profound, just clear. Write down, "I will meet frustration with patience," or "I will focus only on what is mine to do." That one line is the first stroke on a brand new map of your own inner world. The Lincoln Memorial in Washington is more than marble, it is a lesson in constancy. Its massive columns and the seated figure's calm gaze are not just an homage to a president, but a public argument for the Stoic virtues of justice and endurance in the face of a fractured nation. This is the ultimate purpose of a monument, to serve as a permanent visual reminder of the ideals a society holds most dear, a shared anchor for civic virtue. From the equestrian statues of Roman emperors to the bronze figures of modern humanitarian leaders, these public works translate abstract principles into tangible form, urging every passerby to consider their own capacity for duty and resilience. Epictetus, ever focused on the substance over the symbol, drew a crucial distinction. He said, "You are a little soul carrying around a corpse." He meant this not as an insult to the body, but as a sharp reminder that our true self is our character and our will. He pointed out that while anyone can commission a statue of a philosopher, that statue is still just a lump of bronze. The real philosopher is not the one made of stone, but the one whose choices are guided by wisdom and justice. The monument is an inspiration, a visual cue, but the living virtue is the only thing that matters. Compare the stern, toga-clad statue of a Roman senator, his hand raised in oration, with a modern monument to a figure like Mahatma Gandhi, often depicted walking with a simple staff. The Roman statue visually communicates duty and authority within a rigid social order, while Gandhi's statue communicates the virtues of peaceful resistance and personal austerity. Both, however, use the human form to commemorate a life lived by principle, offering a silent, steadfast challenge to all who view them. They ask us not merely to admire, but to emulate. So look around your own city or town. Which public statue stands most prominently in your memory? Is it a soldier, a founder, a poet? What single Stoic virtue does that figure silently represent to you each time you pass by? And how might you carry a small piece of that same strength into your own daily actions? A glowing screen illuminates the dark, your thumb scrolling through an endless feed of questions, advice, and shared struggles on a Stoicism forum. This is the new Agora, a digital public square where the timeless exchange of wisdom continues, no longer bounded by marble columns but by the architecture of a web page. Online communities dedicated to Stoicism are the modern visual evolution of the Stoa poikile, transforming the ancient painted porch into a dynamic, global conversation. The interface has changed from stone to pixels, but the core function remains identical: a shared space for public discourse, mutual support, and the practical application of philosophy in daily life. Here, a person facing a career crisis can post a question and receive dozens of perspectives grounded in Stoic principle, just as a traveler in ancient Athens might have stopped under the colonnade to seek Zeno's counsel. Seneca, in his letters to Lucilius, perfectly captured the spirit of this exchange. He wrote, "We are members of one great body, and nature has planted in us a mutual love and fitted us for a social life. We are here to help one another." This is the very essence of these digital communities, a visual and textual network of mutual aid, where each member contributes to the collective resilience of the whole. Look at the structure of a site like the Stoicism subreddit or the forums on traditional Stoicism. Visually, they are organized for clarity and collective knowledge building. You see curated reading lists serving as digital libraries, extensive wikis that function as shared commonplace books, and threaded discussions that visually map out a philosophical dialogue, allowing anyone to trace the logic of an argument from its premise to its conclusion. These platforms are not passive repositories of information. They are living, breathing schools. So, as you reflect on your own engagement with these ideas, consider your role in this new Stoa. Are you primarily a learner, quietly absorbing the wisdom of others, or do you also contribute your own experiences and hard-won insights, adding your voice to the chorus that guides a stranger through their own storm? Your participation, however small it may seem, helps to maintain this digital porch, keeping its virtual columns strong for the next seeker who happens to wander in. The raft of the Medusa hangs in the Louvre, a monumental canvas of human suffering. Theodore Géricault's masterpiece shows the survivors of a shipwreck adrift at sea, their bodies ravaged by thirst and despair. Yet, at the very apex of the painting's chaotic pyramid of figures, one man stands out. He is not waving frantically at the distant ship on the horizon, but rather supports a weaker companion, his face etched not with panic, but with a quiet, resolute determination. This is the Stoic response to catastrophe, visualized in oil and brushstroke. The artist uses light to illuminate this figure, making him the painting's moral and visual anchor amidst the surrounding turmoil. His posture, though weary, remains upright, his actions purposeful. Géricault chose to depict not just the horror of the event, but the possibility of dignified endurance within it. This artistic choice echoes the core Stoic insight from Epictetus, who said, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them." The suffering on the raft was real, but this figure's power lies in his judgment of the situation, his decision to focus on aid and hope rather than surrender to despair. We can see this same contrast in how different artists treat mythological suffering. Compare a dramatic, Baroque painting of Laocoon and his sons being attacked by sea serpents, where every muscle strains in agony and the faces are twisted in terror, with a more classical sculpture of the same scene. In some renditions, Laocoon's face shows not a scream, but a profound, pained acceptance, a visual representation of meeting a fate he cannot change with courage. One version screams at the injustice of the world, the other embodies the virtue of facing it with strength. Think back to a significant challenge you recently faced. If an artist were to paint a portrait of you in that moment, what would the canvas reveal? Would it show a figure contorted by frustration and anger, or one composed with a calm focus, actively engaging with the problem at hand? The brushstrokes of our own responses are choices we make every day, each one adding color to the ongoing portrait of our character. The weight of a hardcover copy of Meditations feels solid in your hands, a tangible connection to the thoughts inside, while the same words on a phone screen offer a different kind of access, immediate and searchable. This contrast is the latest chapter in a long visual story, the evolution of the Stoic text itself. The philosophy's journey began on papyrus scrolls, rolled and unrolled in the libraries of Rome, each copy a rare and precious artifact. The authority of these early texts came not just from their words, but from their physical scarcity and the labor required to produce them. A single scroll of Seneca's letters was a treasure, its very existence a testament to the value of the wisdom it held. Then came the Codex, the bound book as we know it, which allowed for the preservation of works like the discourses of Epictetus in illuminated manuscripts. These were not just copies, they were works of art, where vibrant illustrations and ornate letters framed the philosophical text, visually elevating its importance for medieval monks and scholars. The medium was a message of reverence. The printing press then democratized this wisdom, turning Stoic texts into objects that could be owned and annotated by merchants and soldiers, their margins filled with personal reflections. Each of these physical forms, the scroll, the manuscript, the printed book, shaped how the philosophy was received, moving from an authority to be revered to a tool to be used. Marcus Aurelius himself provided the essential Stoic lens for this entire evolution when he wrote, "You can discard most of the junk that clutters your mind and clear out space for yourself by comprehending the scale of the world and by perceiving the minuteness of your life in the context of time." He directs us to the content of our thoughts, not the container they arrive in. The message matters infinitely more than the medium. Look at a digitized page from a medieval manuscript of Seneca's works, its beautiful, handwritten script almost requiring a slow, contemplative reading. Then pull up a screenshot of a modern Stoic app on your phone, with its clean, searchable text and daily quote notifications. Both are vessels for the same enduring ideas, yet each invites a different relationship with those ideas, one of deep study, the other of daily integration. So we must ask ourselves, which format do you personally prefer for your own philosophical reading, and more importantly, why? Does the physical book help you slow down and absorb the meaning, or does the digital copy's accessibility ensure you actually engage with the words every single day? The Stoic lesson is to value the wisdom itself, whether it arrives on parchment or a pixelated screen. The rigid posture of a Stoic sage, carved in marble, speaks a silent language of inner command. His back is straight, his shoulders are relaxed, and his gaze is level, a visual anchor in the storm of human emotion. This was never just an artistic convention. It was a direct reflection of the philosophy's core belief that the body and mind are inextricably linked. The Stoics understood that our physical state is a powerful feedback loop for our judgments, a visible manifestation of the reason, or lack of it, governing our inner world. To let your body slump in dejection or your face contort in rage was to grant an external event dominion over your very flesh, a public surrender of your sovereign mind. Epictetus offered characteristically blunt advice on this very point, instructing his students to not let your body be slumped, nor your expression be disturbed by events outside your control. He was teaching them to build a fortress of composure, where the walls were their own posture and the gate was their disciplined attention. This external calm was not a suppression of feeling, but a demonstration of a mind that has processed an impression and chosen its response rather than being hijacked by it. We engage in a modern version of this practice every time we catch ourselves slouching over a screen and consciously sit up straight, or when we take a deep, deliberate breath before responding to a stressful email. These small adjustments are not about vanity. They are Chinese letter Stoic exercises. They are momentary recalibrations that visually and physiologically signal to the brain that we are still in command, that the situation has not overthrown our capacity for rational action. So, as you listen, take a brief inventory of your own body in this moment. Is your spine aligned, or are you hunched in on yourself? Are your shoulders tense and raised, or settled and open? Without any dramatic movement, simply make one subtle adjustment to bring your physical form into a state of greater composure. Feel how this simple, visible act of self-control can instantly create a small pocket of mental clarity amidst the noise. The sun beats down on the marble floor of the Roman Forum, a deafening symphony of commerce, politics, and human ambition. Here, a Stoic senator does not seek a quiet corner to escape the noise. He walks directly into its center. This was the ultimate testing ground, the civic arena where philosophy met the messy reality of power, persuasion, and public life. The open design of the forum, much like the Athenian Agora before it, was a visual and social invitation to engagement, a daily reminder that virtue is not a private meditation but a public performance. Stoicism was never a philosophy for the hermit's cave. It was a practical guide for navigating the crowded spaces of society with justice, courage, and self-control. Marcus Aurelius, who spent his life at the very apex of this public spectacle, constantly reminded himself of this duty. He wrote, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they cannot tell good from evil." His reflection was not a complaint but a preparation. It was his mental armor, donned each morning before stepping into the forum of the world, allowing him to engage with difficult people without being infected by their vices, to perform his duties with justice and without personal distraction. Our modern agoras may look different, but they function in the same way. Your workplace is a forum of duties and interpersonal challenges. A town hall meeting is a space for civic debate. Even a social media feed is a new kind of digital public square, filled with the same ancient temptations of anger, gossip, and the desire for approval. Each of these spaces asks us the same question the Roman Forum asked 2,000 years ago: can you maintain your character here? Can you listen to a frustrating colleague with patience? Can you state your political view with reason rather than venom? Can you scroll past a provocation without feeling compelled to engage in a spiteful argument? These are not minor tests, they are the very exercises that build a resilient soul. So consider your own civic landscape this week. Identify one social space, perhaps a weekly meeting or an online community, where you can consciously practice a single Stoic virtue. It might be the moderation to listen more than you speak, or the courage to voice a principled but unpopular opinion. This is where philosophy stops being a theory and starts becoming the architecture of your life. There is a fortress inside you that no external force can ever breach. This is the profound visual metaphor of the inner citadel, a concept that gives tangible form to the Stoic belief in an inviolable self. Marcus Aurelius returns to this image again and again in his private writings, reminding himself, "Look within. Within is the fountain of good, ever ready to well up if you ever dig." Your inner citadel is that deep, protected wellspring of virtue, a stronghold built not of stone, but of your own reasoned judgments and unwavering principles. Its walls are your ability to choose your response, its high towers are your perspective, and its unbreachable gate is your understanding of what is truly within your control. For the Stoics, this inner fortress was the ultimate defense against the slings and arrows of fortune, a place where your core self remains untouched by insult, loss, or pain, no matter how fierce the siege. Artists and writers across time have been drawn to this same powerful imagery. Medieval manuscripts often depicted the human soul as a walled castle, its various towers representing different virtues that must be guarded. Later, in allegorical paintings, we see figures of reason standing firm on a high battlement, calmly looking down upon the chaotic armies of passion and fear raging below. These are not just fanciful illustrations, they are visual translations of the Stoic promise that your mind can be a sanctuary of peace even when the world outside is at war. So take a quiet moment and ask yourself, what does your own inner citadel look like? Is it a stark, impenetrable stone fortress on a cliff designed to withstand any storm? Or is it perhaps a quiet, walled garden where tranquility grows, or a vast, silent library where every thought finds its proper shelf? Visualizing this personal stronghold makes the philosophy concrete, giving you a mental sanctuary you can retreat to, and more importantly, a symbol of the unassailable strength you are building within, one reasoned choice at a time. A vast, starry night sky is the true capital of the Stoic, its infinite expanse the only city walls they recognized. This is the visual heart of the cosmic city, or cosmopolis, a radical idea that redefined what it meant to belong. For the Stoics, every rational being, from a Roman emperor to a foreign slave, was a fellow citizen in this universal metropolis, bound by a shared spark of reason and a common duty to the whole. This perspective was not an abstract theory, it was a world-view cultivated by gazing upon the natural order, from the predictable paths of the planets to the interconnected ecosystems of a forest. To stand under that canopy of stars was to stand in the central square of one's true home, a visual exercise that dissolved artificial borders and expanded the self. The philosopher Hierocles beautifully visualized this with his concept of concentric circles. He described the first, smallest circle as the self, the next as our immediate family, then our local community, our country, and finally, the outermost circle encompassing all of humanity. Our task, he suggested, is to continually draw those outer circles inward, to treat the stranger with the same consideration we would give a neighbor, recognizing our shared citizenship in the cosmos. Marcus Aurelius, from the peak of his earthly power, constantly returned to this same truth, reminding himself that what brings no benefit to the hive brings none to the bee. He was visually connecting his own actions to the health of a universal hive that knew no national boundaries. How do we practice this cosmic citizenship today? Modern environmentalism is one of its purest expressions. When we work to protect a rainforest or clean an ocean, we are acting as citizens of the cosmopolis, tending to our shared Stoa, which is the planet itself. We are drawing the circle of our concern to include not just all people, but the very natural world that sustains us all. So tonight, or the next clear moment you have, step outside. Look up at the moon, the stars, or simply the vast dome of the sky. Let your mind expand to fill that space, and for just a moment, feel the profound connection of being a citizen in this ancient, boundless city. Some things are up to us, some things are not. This is perhaps the most fundamental Stoic lesson, and it can be drawn as a simple circle. Picture a small, clear circle at the center of a vast, boundless space. Inside that small circle are the only things that truly belong to you, your own judgments, your intentions, your desires, and your aversions. Everything else, the entire universe outside that tiny border, falls into the category of what is not up to you. Your reputation, your health, your wealth, the weather, the opinions of others, even the outcome of your most diligent efforts, all of it exists outside your circle of control. This visual model is the stark, liberating architecture of the dichotomy of control, a concept so central that Epictetus opened his entire handbook with it. He begins by stating some things are in our control and others not. Things in our control are opinion, pursuit, desire, aversion, and, in a word, whatever are our own actions. Things not in our control are body, property, reputation, command, and, in one word, whatever are not our own actions. The power of this diagram is its brutal clarity. It forces you to sort the chaos of your life into two simple categories, and in doing so, it shows you exactly where to focus your energy and where to release your anxiety. Take a common modern worry, fretting over a job promotion. You can spend days agonizing, playing out scenarios in your head, feeling your stomach knot with the uncertainty. Now apply the circle. What is inside your control? Your preparation for the interview, the effort you put into your application, your attitude, your honesty, your decision to do your best. These go inside the circle. What is outside? The final decision of the hiring manager, the strength of the other candidates, the internal budget of the company, whether the interviewer liked your tie. These all belong in the vast space outside. The moment you draw this mental diagram, your role becomes clear. Your job is not to secure the promotion, that is an external. Your job is to do everything within your circle with excellence and virtue, and then to accept the result with equanimity, because it was never yours to command. The turmoil we feel is almost always a sign that we are trying to control what lies outside our circle. So, as a small but profound exercise, take a piece of paper and actually draw this for yourself right now. Write one current concern at the top, then draw your circle and start filling it, placing each element of that situation where it truly belongs. Watch as the weight shifts from a nebulous fear to a clear, manageable list of actions and a list of things to let go. This simple sketch is more than a diagram, it is a map for a peaceful mind. A Roman death mask was not a memorial for the dead, but a tool for the living. These stark, personalized wax impressions, displayed in the atriums of noble families, served as a daily, visual confrontation with a simple fact: everyone in this lineage has died, and you will too. This practice evolved into one of Stoicism's most powerful visual disciplines, Memento Mori, the remembrance of death. Far from a morbid fixation, this was a philosophical technique to sharpen life's value, a lens that brought every choice into stark relief. Stoic art is filled with these quiet teachers. In the Vanitas still life paintings of the 17th century, a grinning skull sits beside a wilting flower, an overturned glass, and a guttering candle. The entire composition is a single, beautiful sentence written in objects: all earthly glory is fleeting. Seneca framed this practice with his characteristic clarity, stating that the person who has learned how to die has unlearned how to be a slave. He meant that when you fully accept your own mortality, you are freed from the tyranny of fearing loss, of seeking endless approval, of postponing your life. That acceptance becomes the ultimate source of courage, allowing you to live not as a slave to external things, but as a free person focused on what virtue you can enact with the time you have. We continue this tradition today, often without even labeling it as Stoic. A programmer might use a skull and crossbones as a desktop wallpaper, not as a symbol of danger, but as a private reminder of life's finitude. Someone might wear a simple ring engraved with a phrase, or keep a smooth, worn stone on their desk as a tactile anchor to the present moment. These are our modern death masks, subtle visual cues that call us back from distraction and toward intentional action. So, with that image held in your mind, ask yourself this one question: If you carried the weight and wisdom of Memento Mori with you through this entire day, what single thing would you do differently? Would you finally have that difficult conversation with compassion? Would you set aside the trivial complaint? Would you truly listen to someone you love, recognizing that this particular moment with them will never come again? From the painted porch of Athens to the glowing screen in your hand, the visual shell of Stoicism has transformed beyond all recognition. But what has remained absolutely unchanged through all these centuries is the quiet, internal work these visuals were built to support. The architecture crumbles, the art changes style, and the media evolves, but the core practices of mindfulness, virtue, and resilience are the timeless tools themselves, not the ever-changing toolboxes we keep them in. The essence of Stoicism was never in the marble of a statue or the parchment of a manuscript. It lives in the deliberate moment you pause an angry impulse, in the choice to act with fairness when you could exploit an advantage, and in the calm acceptance of a plan that has fallen apart despite your best efforts. Marcus Aurelius identified this unchanging center when he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is the universal heartbeat of the philosophy, a focus on the internal character that exists independently of any external circumstance, whether that circumstance is the fall of an empire or a frustrating traffic jam. The work is precisely the same whether you are reflecting in the steam of a Roman bath, writing at a desk in a Renaissance library, or sitting with your thoughts in a modern coffee shop. You are still examining your first, raw impressions before they harden into destructive judgments. You are still asking yourself if your next action serves justice and the common good. You are still distinguishing between what is yours to steer and what is not, then aligning your efforts accordingly. So, with this entire journey in mind, what one Stoic practice will you commit to making your own starting today? Will it be the morning meditation to set your intentions, the evening review of your actions, or the simple, constant practice of asking, "Is this within my control?" Choose one and carry it with you, no matter what it looks like on the outside. The true power of this journey lies not in the changing forms, but in the unwavering human need they all served. We began under the sun-bleached colonnade of the Athenian Stoa, a philosophy born in public view, then watched as it was brought indoors to the private gardens and marble busts of Roman villas. It survived the fall of empires, meticulously copied by scribes in hushed monasteries, only to be reborn in the vibrant colors of Renaissance frescoes and the printed pages of Enlightenment books. It inspired the stark geometry of Neo-Stoic forts and the minimalist lines of our modern homes, finally finding its newest agora in the glowing interfaces of our digital communities. Through every civilization, the visual shell of Stoicism adapted, finding a language each culture could understand. Yet, through it all, the core practices remained the same anchor for the human spirit, a timeless pursuit of self-control, virtue, and clear perspective. Marcus Aurelius, whose own words traveled this entire path, offered a final reflection on our place within this eternal flow. He wrote, "Everything harmonizes with me which is harmonious to you, O universe. Nothing for me is too early or too late, which is in due time for you. Everything is fruit to me which your seasons bring, O nature." This is the profound acceptance that connects every visual incarnation, the understanding that we are a small but significant part of a vast, rational whole. As this visual story comes to a close, we are left with a single, personal question. Which evolution of Stoic imagery resonated most deeply with you? Was it the public commitment of the painted porch, the private discipline of the journal, or the modern clarity of a digital community? Let us know in the comments how you visualize your own practice of these ancient principles. If this exploration of enduring ideas has been valuable for you, consider subscribing to continue the journey.